All right, and we're back. All right, y'all, we are back, and we're back with Bashea Williams. If he wasn't with us, our guest, he's a licensed clinical social worker, described as an intellectual emotionalist, someone who understands what a man thinks and what a woman feels, helping the two meet and have common ground by encouraging emotion and logic to agree. Dedicated father, relationship specialist. We still got Bashea Williams in the building, y'all, and we're back from our break. And I wanted to talk to you about Dear Future Wife. You know, you're a man's guide and a woman's reference to healthy relationships. And I want to talk to you. I want to ask you what made you actually write Dear Future Wife?
So there's a couple different things, but I think most importantly, it was because I wanted to have a ideal relationship. I wanted to have a highly functional, loving relationship, and I knew I needed to do some work myself. I started because I had this idea that this plan that I was going to go to college, meet my wife, graduate, get married, live happily ever after. So that was my idea. So when
That's great. Go ahead.
when I went into relationships, I didn't go into relationships to meet the person. I went into relationship to marry the person.
Mm.
So that was my idea because I wanted love. I wanted to be in a perfect situation and we can figure everything out. We can conquer the world. We can do this. We can do that. So when a relationship didn't work out, I'm not one who blames the person that I was with. I'm one who self-reflects and looks at myself. Even if somebody did something to me, I'm asking myself, what did I do to cause them to do that to me? So it's more introspect and it's more of, again, self-reflection of, okay, I needed to do something differently. I needed to work on this. I needed to be more present here. I needed to do this. What can I do? And so, being emotionally available was dangerous at that time. So I began to write. I began to write this love story of work, what I needed to improve on or what another person needed to improve on in a sense that as a man, this is what a man needs and this is what I need from a woman or this is what I want from a woman. So that's when I began to just kind of like journal my thoughts. Prior to that, I used to write raps and stuff like that
Okay,
and
okay.
all that good stuff. So it's like, all right, I'm not gonna be a rapper, but I
You
got
never know.
bars, but it's not gonna happen, you know. So I was like, let me transition it into like poetry, and then it turned into the letters.
Mm. You know what? That's interesting because how you say, you got into relationships to get married and live happily ever after. It's like how I was like, I'm going to the NBA. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like, ain't no question in my mind. Like, I'm about to do this, and then you were like, like for me, the NBA was like, if it happens, it happens, but I ain't really sweating it. Like that was my approach
Yeah.
to dating and relationship. Like, hey, I ain't really thinking about that. I'm focused on this and XYZ. So I thought that was very interesting. But yeah, so I can't say that I think I know usually before I got married. Like I'm one of those people who once I determine what this is, it doesn't change for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like once I determine that like I'm not looking for a wife, when I determined that before, I was literally not looking for a wife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like and there was nothing a woman could do to change that.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how good she perceived she was and all that kind of stuff. I just and I let them know from the jump like this is just I'm not in that zone. But when I was ready and I told myself that I'm ready, I'm ready to meet the woman I want. Literally, probably like months after that, I met my wife. Like it just. I was just like focused and honed in to where I saw a picture of her on Instagram like years ago, I didn't even know she didn't even have an Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
A friend of hers put her in, took a picture with her on it. I said, that's gonna be my woman. That's gonna be her. And she's my woman. She's my wife. Still 6 years later. But because I had a paradigm shift as it relates to how relationships look for me, because my stepdad and my mom had got married, but I didn't see it there. It was not what I wanted. I rarely saw interactions. But when I met my mentor, and that's why I say having a mentor is so important. And you guys as listening, you know about all this stuff pretty much. But just to kind of reiterate, just having someone who is older that looks like me, somebody I understand, that gives me access to what it looks like, what it feels like to be in this type of relationship, this level of relationship where both are respecting each other. I've never seen that before. Or both are communicating in a way that's mutual. And a lot of relationships that you see, one's either up here on communication and the other one's down here. It's a mismatch in communication, but
Right.
never, rarely is it equal. So I say all this because you talk about in your book about how your college relationship was, and you talked about the importance of influence and how people that were around that environment had this mentality that is short term anyway. You know what I mean? So I want you to talk about how important is environment to, and how it affects your relationship perspective and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think environment is very influential on how you operate and how you think and what impacts you. For me, because I guess growing up, it was my father and my mother who were together, then estranged, and there was different things happening. But it was my older sister, and then my female cousin, and a lot of times my mother, my sister, and my female cousin, and they had a lot of stuff to do that they could relate to, and I had to chill and kind of sit by myself.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I saw them interact, and I had to create my own entertainment, my own thoughts and theories and all that type of stuff. So that impacted the way I operated after that, the isolation, because you're told like that's girl stuff. You're not supposed to be like, let them do their thing. Like I got my army men. Like why can't my army men mess with the Barbies? Like why can't He-Man and Barbie go together? And then why can't I do that? Or why can't I go where everybody else is going? Because there's a whole bunch of girls now in my neighborhood. It was not a lot of boys that were doing the right things. Like growing up, some were selling drugs, some were doing fighting or whatever. So my mother was like, nah, you can't be in that environment. Let me keep you away from that. So if I'm thinking about my environment, wherever I moved, I was able to sit back and still be myself and still do my own thing and not let what's happening around me control how I operate. I can look at it, I can have perspective, and I can understand it, but that doesn't mean I have to do it. So, going to college, again, I'm coming from Maryland to Tennessee. I'm already isolated in a sense because we don't rock the same way. We don't operate the same way.
Right.
Like, they have a whole different culture. Like I'm in the mountains. I'm out there with people from, it was Johnson City, Tennessee, people from Memphis, people from Georgia, and we all dressed different.
Right.
We talk different. So I still was me, and I wasn't going to be what everybody else was.
Right.
They all had connections. They come from the same area and all that type of stuff. So again, my idea of relationship was different. And plus people were coming to me about their relationships. So I can't look like your question. You know what I'm saying? I got to look like the answer.
Okay.
So that was that other added pressure that I was, that I put on myself. Right. So again, I'm in that environment, but I'm still different.
Right. So you talked about um that you're one to internalize and kind of reflect on what you
Mhm.
could have did different. And these the book Dear Future Wife is a collection of reflections,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
how do you think those reflections have have helped you personally in terms of where you were when you first started doing it to now?
So that's a funny question. So it was a lot of reflections, and not everything in the book is about me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe about 15% is about my personal experience. A lot of it is about um, questions that are asked to me, stuff that I saw on maybe social media
Right.
or friends and family, random people come to me asking questions, my perspective on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to look at the stuff that actually impacted me or actually was personal, and how I need to reflect, putting that stuff down on paper and saying, yo, this is what I'm really dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
This is the stuff that I can't continue to do. This is the stuff that really hurt me. This is the stuff that I was ignoring, and it was manifesting, externally. And so it's impacting the way I operate in relationships and with myself.
Right.
So I said I had to change some of those things, and I had to, understand what I was doing that was not only hurtful to another person, but also hurtful to myself.
Right. So you think it gave you the ability to like really tap into how you truly feel about things, whether it be, you know, somebody else's experience, social media, like the collective of how people look at things and how people think about things, because that ultimately affects you also.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the things that we thought about, you know what I'm saying, in 97 is totally different from the things that we think about now, you know, in
Right.
terms of, you know, the desires are similar, but I mean like just the how much information is available because of social
Right.
media and all that kind of stuff. But that also has the ability to affect how relationships are altered, I believe, because back in 97 you didn't really you had the internet, but we still had beepers in 97.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We still had pages and stuff in 97. We had to buy minutes. I
Yeah.
remember, yeah, having to buy minutes and like having, hey, I got 3 minutes left on my minutes. So,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? You got to call me after 9.
Right.
Uh, so, but it affects, you know, it affects a lot of things in terms of our relationships and how we view ourselves. Because the way we viewed ourselves then is it has to change because we have so much more information that kind of runs concurrent with the way that we think about ourselves and what we think about, you know, the world and how much access to information when you could just I would say like back in the day, instead of like somebody just telling you something, what you gonna do? You can't Google it. You know what I mean? You can't. You got to either go to the library or pick up a book. But usually, you would take what somebody says pretty much at face value because there was nothing else to gauge it from.
Mhm.
Nowadays, somebody tells you something, you can say, okay, well, let me make sure, let me Google it and check it out. But there's a lot to that as far as and I'm saying that too because I'm saying that too because in a part of the book you talked about how there's a fear of presenting who you are. You know,
Mhm.
like, you know, we hide who we are, um, and I think we hide who we are, but when we get into relationships, and this is why I asked about journaling because the journaling and writing your internal thoughts gives you the ability to really know your internal thoughts. You know,
Mhm.
and then when you get into a relationship with somebody, you kind of they get to see the thing that they become basically a living journal, meaning they
Mhm.
can see some of the things that you can't see, or if your relationship ends, then then that journal is gone. But what I'm getting at is the reason. Well, what do you think the reason? Why do we protect ourselves within the confines of, oh man, I want to say within the confines of actually failure. You know what I'm saying? Like protecting yourself through knowing that it's going to fail, and you choose to do it anyway because you don't really want to. I I'm trying to find a way to ask this question because it's really a good question, because I feel like we fear we fear who we fear presenting who we truly are to the world. So we settle on something that we know isn't going to work or shouldn't work a lot of the times. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I think we fear being hurt.
Right.
We fear being vulnerable. If I give you access to my true self and you see it and you reject it, then what? So now, I presented all of me and you have it in your hands. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with me now that you have me? So, and if we grow up and we've been rejected, we learn how to protect that. So we shift, in order to relate to people, because we want to be accepted. We want to be liked. We don't want to be rejected in who we are. So we tend to kind of adjust we adjust to an environment and just adjust to the people. I said adjust to the environment, adjust to the people that's in front of us. So we have this protective shell because under it is vulnerability. Under it is access to our weakest points. So when you say come into something knowing that it's going to fail, we don't necessarily know it's going to fail, but we definitely want it to succeed. And so we adjust ourselves so we can make things succeed. So that means if I have to protect myself and pretend, but then the person that you're meeting is meeting the needs of the person that you're pretending to be.
Right.
So now we have this circle of confusion and everybody's, working on parts that really don't need to be fed. We need to be able to be vulnerable and say, yo, this is what I'm feeling. This hurts. This is, again, like the journal. This is my pain. These are my strengths. And I understand I can't do it alone. There won't be times where we won't have problems, but we're not going to let our problems or my weaknesses destroy the relationship.
Right. Right. I guess what I'm saying as far as the failure part is like, not that you're not trying to succeed, but I mean, because you don't know how to succeed. So all you know is what you've been doing, what you've been programmed to do, what you've been doing up until that point. And I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, we're doing it because that's the mechanism that we know. That's the method that we use to protect ourselves, which if not corrected, then it's obviously going to lead to a similar result. You know what I'm saying? So making the adjustments. How do you recommend a person, like, what mental shifts do people need to make adjustments in their relationships, especially in their relationships specifically? What type of adjustments can a person make to make sure that they are vulnerable and open enough within a certain, I guess, safety net? Would you say? Yeah. How I guess, how do you reel it at? Like, how do you gauge if you're safe enough to not be hurt? Does that make sense?
Yeah. In a sense. So, I mean, that's when you do, the self work, when you feel like you can trust yourself,
All right.
regardless of the results, that I'm going to be okay.
Right. Okay.
So if I'm meeting with someone, if I'm dating someone, if I'm in a relationship, if I'm married, that I understand that my partner is not going to go with everything that I say. My partner is not going to be everything for me. There are going to be things that I need to take care of myself. There's a spirituality part, there's relationship with God that I need to work on. And that's what my core values and all that type of stuff.
Right.
But going into someone who's sitting across from you and just not putting the pressure of them to be the end all be all, the fixer and all that type of stuff. And knowing that if I share this moment with you and if you don't like it, it's not that you don't like me. You just don't like what I'm saying to you, the experience. You don't like how that makes you feel. And I separate the problem or the issue or what we're talking about from who I am.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the mental shift. And we easily get rejected or feel like we're rejected because somebody didn't go with what we said.
Right.
Side.
And that goes into like expectations,
Yeah.
Creating, I like to call them unfair expectations, especially like if you're dating. I always say, like, how can you have expectations for a person when you don't really know them to expect something from them? That's like going to the grocery store and expecting fast food. They may have it in there. They might.
Right.
But you're going to a grocery store, allow yourself to get in there and see what they have. And then based on your own desires and your own needs, like, this ain't it for me. I need to go somewhere else.
Right.
But I think a lot of people go in because they fear, but that's crazy because then that makes it safe. That makes it safe to not progress. If that makes sense, it makes it because you can't really progress without tapping into those things that you don't want tapped into, meaning your fears, your all your letdowns, all the things that you protect yourself, all the safety, all the mechanism that we use to protect ourselves. You see what I'm saying? Like, we use those things, but we don't want anybody in that area. Like, hey, this area, nobody could come in here, but outside of here. And that's what I gathered from that particular section, that we create a safe version of what we want to present to the world. We create a safety, like a buffer. Like, okay, this area, hey, we nobody really comes in here. Everything else, like, that's for the world to see. So then it affects how we present to the world, and then what we present to the potential person that we're going to be with, it ends up not being true. So they're actually curtailing themselves to a false idea of who you are.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It's a false idea of who you are. So that's what you said in a nutshell.
Right.
But, like, just presenting somebody who's not really true to people and then expecting them to love you for who you are.
Right.
But it's not truly who you are. It's a representation of who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how, like, and that's a monster to get past, though. Because it has so many layers to it. Like, we layer it and layer it and layer it on top of each other, and over the years, unless somebody says, hey, like, you're layered. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're difficult to XYZ. And but you're so used to how you are, it's kind of difficult to pick it out. So what methods should people use? Like, let's say they're single, and let's say they're in a relationship. How do they start to peel the onion, so to speak?
Well, and again, it goes back to what I was saying. It's just like you have to do your personal work and trust yourself that regardless of the response, you're going to be okay. So whatever you did to, when we build these shells and we walk around and with these representations of who we really are, that's a protective measure. And because we don't want to be hurt. So I'm going to give you what I'm allowing you to see this part, because I'm okay if you, talk bad to that part. So we have these, everybody talks about narcissism, but we all have a little bit of narcissism because it protects us. There's, of course, the clinical person who's a narcissist, but we all have narcissistic wounds that we do. They've been saying, like, okay, you can attack this part of me because I'm okay, because that's also not the real me.
Exactly. It's like a smoke screen. Yeah. It's a smoke screen. Yeah.
So, it's about relationship. It's about building trust, and it's about, again, trusting yourself, and then finding someone that you can have that conversation with and say, yo, I'm trusting you with my stuff. And, you have an opportunity, and I have an opportunity to really build this relationship where we can not be like the world. We can come into our confines of our home and be real.
Right.
and keep it in our home and within the relationship.
Right. Just maintaining that openness. I guess what I was really trying to get at is what is the self work that needs to be done. And I guess it really just depends on
Yeah.
what issues those are. But that's why you have counseling and coaching and stuff like that. Somebody that can kind of bounce off ideas and help you work through those issues. Like you said, real quickly, I did an interview with Genesis Games a couple episodes ago, the Miami therapist, and we talked about the narcissistic, how everybody like says this person's narcissistic and XYZ, but she said she really has never actually, and she's been doing this for a while, that she's never actually clinically diagnosed anyone as narcissistic. And what people tend to do is label. Now, I'm saying this because if it's a popular label, usually people will use it to say this is the problem. You know what I mean, like that. But there's a lot of that. Like every so often there'll be a new label. Like I saw something else. I can't remember what it was, but there was a new. They're working on like new labels now. You know what I'm saying? So people use these different things, and like that's why it's great to have you, a professional, come on to say, listen, everybody got a little bit of that in them. You know what I'm saying? It ain't just that person that you blaming. Like you got some in you too. You know what I'm saying? But you just want to highlight the one things that they were doing wrong. Now, briefly before we go, I want to talk to you about, because you know what's funny? Like, I've been seeing a lot of stuff now, but now you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you were the one I saw first saying future wife, and now you see like future husband, future fiance, like you see all these future stuff. Now, I don't know if it's me because I know I see it now. It's like a new car. You know, you see it everywhere.
Yeah.
But I'm giving it to you. I don't care what they do. I feel like you were the first one to do it.
Appreciate that.
But have you, first of all, have you been seeing a lot of that going on?
Yeah, so I first started writing it probably like in 99, 2000.
So yeah, you the first one. You said 19. When you said 19, I said that was before
I'm sure someone somewhere wrote it before me.
Yeah.
As far as like putting it on social media, like, you know, I got the whole, I mean, it's trademark.
Right.
You know, and registered. But yeah, I mean, I did see a lot. I ran into a lot of people saying, yo, somebody's copying your stuff. Like literally people used to take what I wrote, rebrand it, put their name on it.
Dear future ex-wife. So they say a little stuff like that. You know?
Yeah, that and just, or literally my stuff, my words that I wrote and put their name on it.
I believe it.
Like they wrote it. Right. So, you know, I've experienced different things. Even and when I first, I guess, made it a brand on Instagram, it used to be funny because there used to be people with like hundreds of thousands of followers who used to repost my stuff without my name on it, steal my stuff. And I was just like, I got 1,000 followers. Why are you stealing from me? Like, bruh, like just put my name, just repost and say good post, and you know, I'm trying to get big like y'all.
They trying to keep feeding the machine, man.
Yeah. But you know, I learned a lot. Like through this whole process, and the most important thing I learned is to just continue to be genuine and continue to follow, you know, my purpose and what God put on my spirit. And regardless of what it looks like to everybody else, I know that I'm coming from a genuine place.
Right.
I'm not looking to have a big thing. I'm looking to heal and help. It's not about me. It's about my purpose. It's not about, you know, again, the likes, the shares, and all that type of stuff. It's about if I can reach one person, then I feel good.
But you got to admit though, man, it sucks when somebody takes your stuff. Like I hate when somebody reposts something that I reposted and don't even like it. Like I'm one of them kind of people. I'm like, man, at least give me a like. You know what I'm saying? Give a brother a like or something. You know what I'm saying? A dot in the comment section, something. But you know, I think that people want to be. I always say this: people want to be the first to say something. You know what I mean? Or seem like they're the first. That's why you got people putting all kinds of stuff about the Kardashians and all kinds of stuff because they want to be looked at as the first person to know. Like, I knew this before you knew it. So, you know what I'm saying? So, but tell me before we go, I want to know, what is it going to look like once you get it right?
You
see what I'm saying?
That's a question I should be asking you.
No, that's a question I should be asking you because
you got it right.
I know. I that's what I'm saying. Like, for me, like, I got it right, so it doesn't look the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
You got it right for you. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And that's the hard part about it. And then that's why I try to write in general stuff, and stuff that you can apply whatever stage of your relationship.
Right.
If you're single, if you're dating, if you're in a relationship, if you're engaged, if you're married, if you're divorced, I write to all of that in one paragraph.
Okay.
So you can relate to all of that because it's individual work. So, when you got it right, when you can bring all your mess, put it on the table, and y'all can still eat together.
Right.
So that's what it looks like, I think. And that's for the individual person, and the person that you're with. Mm-hmm. And you understand that this person in front of me is not going to be able to handle every need and want, but I still want that person in my life.
But see, that's the thing. Like, but why not? You see what I'm saying? Like, see, for me, and I think I learned this from my mentor, like, it really changed my perspective. Like I said before, I said, when I was single, there was nothing you could tell me to convince me of otherwise. If I just didn't want it, then I didn't want it. But it wasn't until I got to the point where I said, I want this, and I want it exactly like I wanted a woman that could be my best friend, right? The woman that could be my best friend, that I could talk to about anything, that, we work through anything. And for me, that's all I needed and wanted. Like, that's all I needed and wanted. So that kind of created the framework that we're living by now. But it was intentional from the beginning. Like, I knew that this is how it's going to have to be in order for it to work for me. If it's anything other than that, then it's not going to work. I know it's not going to work for me because I had enough, you know what I mean? I had enough stripes and all that kind of stuff to know, like, I'm not going to allow myself to settle for something that I just know I won't want 10, 20 years from now. I'm going to always want to be with my best friends. I'm going to always want to hang out with people I like. That's not going to change. But what I won't like to do is just be doing the same things I'm doing now, like just different women, different things that are cool, but cool at that moment, like, because you're not thinking that like long term, this is what I could be doing for the rest of my life. So it required me to shift my focus and say, you know what, like, the woman I want to marry is going to be my best friend. We're going to be able to talk about anything and everything. We're going to have a real relationship, a real friendship. Because I talked about this before. What we tend to do is we say, I'm gonna marry my best friend, and then like 2 months into the relationship, you telling yourself and telling that person, hey, you my best friend. Like, I got friends that I've known 10 years and they're not my best friend. Right. You know what I mean? I got people that I've known for a lot longer than that and they're still not my best friend. So it could take time, but it could also take the depth of information that you allow. So I always say, when people ask me, how do you know when you're in love with someone, right? And I say it depends on how far you've let them in, how much, and that determines the intimacy. Like, how far have you allowed them to come into the deep darkness of who you are, the stuff that you hide from everybody else, and how did they respond? Those are the key factors for me. How do they respond when they know the worst about you, the absolute worst thing about you? Do they respond with the absolute worst about themselves, and then y'all work together, or do you use it as ammunition to fight against each other? And I think that's where a lot of couples are at. They're fighting. They're using the ammunition about who they are. They're using who they are as ammunition for each other.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's
exactly and what I was meaning I'm in full agreement with that. Like you said what you wanted. Like you got to the point where you done your work. Like I don't want this life anymore. This is what I want. You want your wife to be this. And during that process, I don't know if you met people and that you realize that's not it. She's it. When you met her, like this is it. This is what I was talking about.
No, I knew they was that it. Like
Right.
no, I'm saying like it wasn't no question in my mind. I told myself up until that point, like, because I'm gonna tell you what happened. Before her, I met this young lady that I was like she kind of almost convinced me. Like I'm telling you,
Mm-hmm.
but it was really honestly, it was she didn't almost convince me. I almost convinced myself
Right.
because she didn't. What it was she had just got out of a marriage, right? A devastating marriage to her. Probably about a year and a half afterwards is when we met. Now it was great. I'm talking about it was fireworks and everything. We had a blast. But she just was closed off to allowing me in to know who she truly is.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually she just shut down. It was like, you know how they in the stadium they shut off the lights and they go choo 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 like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
It was like
yeah.
that. Like she was just slowly shutting down more and more to where I was completely shut out. And
Okay.
so I was devastated. And y'all that listen know the story. So, but after that is when I really started focusing on like, okay, boom. If I'm gonna do it, it's gonna have to be with somebody who allows me in to the nth degree. But I have
Right.
to also be open to that also. And then at that point I determined that this is what's going to have to happen in order for me to have to do it. And now I'm ready. And literally, I promise you, within like 6 months after that, maybe 6 months to a year is when I met my wife
Mm-hmm.
off of a picture. I just knew, just based on the things that I had experienced before. She lived, and matter of fact, she lived in Canada, bro. So I didn't even have no way to get in touch with her. I just knew off of a picture at that
Right.
point. So I'm curious for you,
Mm-hmm.
what what does it look like for you once you get there?
Mm-hmm. So it looks like how you just described it. It looks like the last chapter in my book. So it's funny because I was doing a podcast before, and my book started from writing from an unhealthy relationship that ended, and then parts of the book are from my last relationship. And so I gave the words and the identity of the book to those two relationships,
Okay.
even though it's so much more in there. And then I got to the point, and it's funny because I was talking to the person, and it was like, yo, that's not their book. This is your book.
Mm.
And so I said, you know what? I'm taking it back. And for a while, I didn't even promote the book. I was just like, nah, I just write it, I'm gonna get it done, and this is for everybody else to help them, blah, blah. But then I had to sit back and say, all right, this is what I want my relationship to look like.
Right.
So this is me doing the work I need to do, and my wife has done the work that she needs to do, and we're going to have that relationship where I can tell her things and be okay with it. Because typically, I feel like I'm strong enough to tell somebody my deepest, darkest secrets, and I'm strong enough to handle whether they reject it. Now, you reveal yourself, what you do with that information. So I've been in relationships where I've told stuff and it became ammunition. And I'm never one to use anybody's things against them. So it's safe for them to do that. And also, with everything that I do, I go through moments where, I'm at previous jobs where you're getting attacked and stuff like that. So you just brush it off. So you lose some of the empathy and just understand that you're dealing with a mental illness. But then when you get into relationships, I have to kind of shift my mind frame,
Right.
not allow certain things to happen because I can handle it.
Right.
So that's what it looks like. Again, sharing those deep thoughts and knowing that it's safe with that person.
I gotta go. Like, how tough is it now that you have this level of information, and how tough is it? I would imagine you have to talk to date other therapists and stuff like that, because it must be tough for the most part to kind of like be able to read what's going on and like, man, and fight that urge to say, okay, I'm really attracted, but mentally, like, hold on now, like, I know this ain't gonna work. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so here's the thing about that. Like previous relationships, I never turned on the clinical hat.
but
Like I
how?
felt
Like for me,
because
okay,
and that was a bad thing, and that
okay,
would be the questions like, and that also was a request because it was like, are you, it's the first thing people say, like we sitting down, we enjoying a meal, like, are you analyzing me? No, I'm just listening, trying to understand and
right.
seeing if,
Well, yeah, I got you.
you
Yeah,
know. So there's a clinical part, like, and then that means I'm breaking down everything you say, like,
right. Well, yeah, I got you. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
yeah. I got
So,
you. Yeah, yeah.
and I dated a therapist a couple years ago, and that's what she did.
She broke
So
you
I
down
said,
like that.
yeah, I mean, it was just like the sky is blue. Do you mean it's blue? Like, is it blue because you feeling this? Like, nah. Like, I walked outside, I looked up, and the sky was blue. Like, it used to be stuff like that. Like, we couldn't have a normal conversation. So I was just like, I don't know what I can tell this person, and I know that I don't want anybody else to experience that.
Right.
So once I got to the point, like once I get to the point where I'm putting on the clinical hat in a relationship, that's when it's tough
Mm.
because now
You can't
I'm
enjoy it.
seeing, yeah,
Yeah.
now I'm seeing stuff that I should have paid attention to before. Now I'm breaking stuff down, and I
Right.
can't, it's just like I need to. Where's my place where I can come home and I can talk to somebody, and it's not about anything mental health related, clinically related,
Mm.
where I have to break stuff down and we have to go deep. Like I just came off of work. Like I just did that all day. So I need some reprieve. Like I need a turn off. And my turn off should be the connecting, on
Right.
the emotional level and just us just, and if we have an issue, that doesn't mean I'm just disconnect from the issue, but I'm
So
not going to be doing that every day.
So part of that is just it could be just them projecting onto you, what they believe you should be doing or are doing. Kind of like I was
Mhm.
just doing. Like for me, like I get it. Like I personally can't. Like I meet a lot of people and I can't just like, hey, analyze you and tell you, break you down like that. Like I still do this to this day. I still talk to a lot of people I meet everywhere, and I just listen to them just because you got to get that baseline. It's like, when they do the polygraph, they ask you like the basic questions like, is your name XYZ? You establish that baseline, but somewhere in your mind, eventually something clicks.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You like, whoa, I missed. I let me slow down, or
Right.
I got so caught up in it, and then I guess it's tough. Like I couldn't imagine. I don't know, man. That's tough for me. That's tough for me because I think for me as as part of wanting to help,
Mm-hmm.
part of wanting to protect myself, and part of not wanting to waste each other's time, I think I would have to partially say, hey, let me make sure this is something I want to progress with.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? So is that a dilemma that you like? Is that a dilemma? I see. I'm out of the game, so for
Right.
me, adding this layer on top of that, with with the book and with women potentially being someone you'd be interested in, I would find it very difficult to kind of like allow myself to not analyze. And
Yeah.
you see what I'm
So
saying?
yeah, so it's like it's definitely been a shift in that because initially, like I said before, it wasn't that. It was just
Right,
like I'm playing cold turkey block, mind just open to just hear you and just to learn you.
right.
And also through the process, if if I'm at work and I'm dealing with six schizophrenics and I come home and you might have
Seven.
depression, yeah.
No.
No, so I'm gonna go home and I'm dating someone that's borderline.
Right.
I'm like, well, it's not as bad as the six schizophrenics at work,
Gotcha.
so
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
okay here. It's not as bad. Like I can survive this type of situation until
Right.
it gets to the point where I realize I can't.
Well, that's the reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of women that I see nowadays, they automatically say, "Hey, narcissistic." So they're they're automatically projecting the narcissistic, you know, traits onto someone
Mm.
before they meet them, and they're saying, well, this person, I'm just using women as an example because they're saying that this person is doing this to me because they are this, they are a narcissist, or they are this. And that's what I'm saying. Like, for you, in order to allow yourself to really see what this person is bringing to the table, you have to filter all of that stuff out and say, you know, all the things that you know. And these people are like all the things they think they know because they read a few articles online. They hear everybody talking about it. Now, every 93.8% of dudes is a narcissist, or you know, or whatever for women. You know, whatever guys come up with women. But I mean, we could talk a lot about this stuff because this is because I find it interesting, the shadow side of relationships, like how when two people come together and how they meet and where they are, and we're gonna wrap this up, but where they are and how they meet determines a lot of the things that progress forward. So we talked about before, you know, doing the self-work, doing the self-reflection, making sure you do the work on yourself to be able to present your best version of yourself. But that's sometimes tough to do because you don't know the best version of yourself. Because if you did know, you probably wouldn't be in the majority of the situation that you're in. But I'm saying that because in order to, for me, relationships have been the gym of personal development. You know what I mean? Like, I learn and see, like, because how you're saying majority of the things that you write about are a reflection of the things that you experience with someone, or in a relationship, or in whatever kind of relationship. Like, I always talk about life is a combination of relationships. We learn about who we are, and it's filtered back to us through the relationships that we find ourselves in. So I think a lot of people that try to avoiding relationships are avoiding understanding more about who they are and understanding like what parts need to be worked on. So I think that's very interesting. Man, I mean, we covered a lot. We covered a whole lot. But how can they get, first of all, how can they get in touch with you? How can they get the book? Here's the book. I got my copy. I actually got my copy. You see that? There it is. Boom.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that, man.
Yes, sir. Always support, my brother. Always.
So they can get the book at my website. It's BasheaWilliams.com, and that's BASHEA Williams.com. And you go to the shop Bashea, or go to the book tab, and you can click on it. If you get it through my website, I'll send you, I'll sign it and send it to you. You can also go on Amazon. It's on iBooks. It's on Kindle, Barnes and Noble, Books and Borders. I don't know. It's on a whole bunch of different platforms. But something.
Books a Million. You probably talk about Books a Million.
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't think Borders is even in business anymore. No, they not. They out of business. Dang.
Okay.
But go ahead.
So all those online platforms is there. But the physical book, again, you can order from Amazon. You can order from my website. If you want to get in contact with me, everything is Bashea Williams, IG, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and my website is Bashea Williams. And I'm also on Psychology Today under Paul Bashea Williams.
Nice.
And my website for clinical stuff is heartsandmindcounseling.com, and that's heartsinmindcounseling.com. Yeah. So, I mean, that's how you reach me, man. I'm just, all the social media platforms, Bashea Williams.
All right, cool. You got any parting words, any questions? You got anything for me, brother? Any questions, any analyzations? I'm taking it all. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, we're good. We're good, man. I definitely appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and get ready for church, man, to go to the late service.
Okay, there you go. I appreciate your time, my brother. Y'all can definitely go ahead and check him out. Make sure you support Dear Future Wife, and check him out on there. You can catch us on Instagram at Relationships and Chill. Relationshipsandchill.com is the website. And I'm Coach R. Anthony. Hey, we definitely appreciate you coming to the Relationships and Chill podcast. We look forward to having you on again, because I want to talk more about, like, specifically what what we could do to just as men and women, specifically, like, how we relate and how we interact as black men and black women, or whatever ethnicity, because we're gonna deal with all kinds of stuff. So we'll have Bashea back on soon. So you guys definitely want to make sure you stay tuned, subscribe to the podcast on all your major listening apps, and we'll catch you guys on the next go round. We out of here, y'all. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Relationships and Chill. For more information on cultivating the relationship of your dreams, please follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Relationships and Chill, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Relationships and Chill TV. You can also visit our website at www.relationshipsandchill.com. Together, let's make relationships great again.